Now you see how that works? Now it comes on down, he goes on down, and then the next guy can loan, he says, and I'm only going to go 3 deep, $729, and then he ends up with $81 reserves. Okay, when you went down, he went down 10 banks, they had still $387.42, they haven't fractionalized off, so if you added it up with all this column, he's done it for you, you end up with this figure, 615, when he went down to 10 banks, which equals 1,000 he started with, but you have $5,513 worth of loans out there. Now, I guarantee you, you can create new debt by loaning the same dollar, but you cannot create new money.
Right.
It can't be done. Because if I loaned you this, and if you want me to take the time, I have some currency in my thing over there, and I'll have to do this if you want to see it. I can have 10 of them, and I can hold one, and I can loan you 9. Then won't use the fraction. Then you hold one and loan him 8. And then 7 and 6. And when we get done over here, you can count up the dollar bills, the $10 bills, and I guarantee we only got 10. It happens every time. Well, how did they get 500 and something out of it? Because I can do it every time and it only gets 10. In fact, I had a bunch of horses one time. I had 10 of them in a corral. So I kept one in the corral and I put 9 in the next corral. And I kept one in that and put 8 in the next corral, and I did that. When I got through, I counted the horse and I still had 10. How in the heck did they get 6 horses out of that deal? Gotta be some What did I say when I started? Words are used to entertain, inform, and deceive. Because this is mathematically impossible, physically impossible to create more money doing this process. But if you create brand new money every time you do this, now if you add up that, just like you add this up, and of course you can add this column up correctly, and you will end up with that much debt, because even if I spend the $900, I still owe the $900 to the bank, don't I? And I also owe the interest on it. So then I asked him, I said, I don't think, we won't even just talk about the 1,000 like you said, but I don't even think your chart's accurate, because I made up my own chart then, just like his. Only I added the interest. Well, now I borrowed 900, and I owed 990, and I borrowed 810, and I owed 800, another $81.10, $81 on that. When I got it up, I ended up with 5,520 interest added onto this. So now my interest is greater than the money supply. My debt owed is greater than the money supply. I said, why didn't you put that in your chart? That's just as important as the other. Well, you didn't want to discuss that at all. You guys could go look at this if you want to. It won't bother me. And that's how that works, and that's how the whole process works.
Okay.
Now
now a bond dealer, that's probably just like Wells Fargo or something, or Bank of America, and that's kind of what they are. So they're just the guys that are buying the bonds from the Treasury.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
There's 25 of them, and I may have it in another briefcase I've got here. I actually have the bills with me. I can show you all the changes they made in the bills. Well, they started out promise you gold and ended up with nothing. But it's still a promise to pay you over. And if you want, I can dig that out. You can walk by it. And you can actually see all the bills with your own eyes. How this change, took effect. Like walking down the actual bills and seeing how they changed over the years. So now, any other questions? And that's what happened.
Yeah. Okay. So the bank like Wells Fargo buys a bond from the Treasury Department.
Mm-hmm.
So then, what gets the money from the Federal Reserve over to the Treasury then?
An electronic transfer.
Oh, so that's it.
Nowadays they don't even print the bonds. Mm-hmm. It's all electronic bookkeeping.
So the Treasury just sells these bonds, and then the Federal Reserve just goes, oh, okay, here you go. And
that's right. And they exchange promise to pay, and it's there, out there.
Wow.
Just exactly like I showed you on the first one, only bigger numbers. Okay. And I can prove to you beyond a shadow of a doubt that all we use for money is numbers. Mm-hmm. And I'll prove it to you. It's a simple little process. I have a $20 bill here. I have a 10 here. And we'll just go down to 1 here. Now tell me, what is the difference in those three bills? In weight, size, or anything else? Well, then why is one worth 20 and the other worth 10 and the other one's worth 5? They're exactly made out of the same material, they're exactly the same weight, same size, everything. The only difference is the number, isn't it? If that don't prove we only use numbers for money, I don't know what else does. Because there's no other difference. Now, if we had gold or we had something else, I don't care what it is, and I'm not a gold nut in any sense of the word, because I can mathematically prove, and I have in my book, there's not enough of it. You couldn't use it if you tried. In fact, if you got, and they say, well, all you got to do is keep raising the price of gold. But you talk about, now they talk about increasing the money supply, devalues the other money. That only happens in gold and nothing else. Because the more you increase the value of the gold, the smaller the gold dollar becomes, doesn't it? That's where that comes from. It had nothing to do with paper money. But it really does with gold money. And they got it all screwed around in their heads. Because they listen to a lot of lies and they never stop to think through, well, is this true? Or what's the consequences of this ever happen? And that's probably what separates me from the bulk of the Americans and very little else. When I'm told something, I say, could that be true? And if it is true, what's the consequences of that? And if you don't believe that, ask my wife. She said, oh yeah, you can't even watch a damn TV show. Every time they say something, he says, well, that can't be true. And that's the truth. But she stayed with me for 47 years, or going on 48, so she's got to be the truth, let me tell you. But, and it's really simple to see these things. It wasn't so simple to figure it all out the first time. I'll be real honest with you that. It just wasn't that simple. I put more hours into studying this and reading it and thinking about it, trying to figure out, well, what the heck? And once I really understood that everything they didn't say isn't true, but some things are, now how in the heck do I know the difference? And that's hard. But once you see it, a little common sense and logic, but like my horses here. My gosh, there's no way you could do that and come up with more horses. So how could they do the same thing and come up with more dollars? Unless they create brand new money every time they make the new loan, and then you can do that, and that's what they do. I hope I'm not boring you to death. And
so what's the answer?
Oh, the answer is so simple it blows your mind. It's so simple. Create some brand new money and spend it into circulation instead of loan it. You solve all your problems. You get rid of all your debt. You don't have any interest. And now if you build roads with it, you don't even have to tax for them. What more would you like? A really well-built road system with no taxes and no debt and no interest? And money to spend when you get through. Can anybody tell me what would be simpler and easier than that? And you wouldn't even have to have a tax bill.
It might be simple, but it can't be easy because how are you going to cover all this massive debt?
You can't. It's physically, mathematically, everything impossible.
What do you do to say?
You just have to write it off. And you want to be a little careful how you're doing that, too. And you want to be a little careful with this, too. Everything has consequences. There's only 3 ways to move money. And if I'm wrong, you get up and explain it to me. I can give it to you, I can spend it to you, or I can loan it to you, right? You think about that a while.